Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Shovel Knight playthrough. In the last part, we started our Tier 2, areas. So after you beat one boss, you can go to the Armor Outpost, which is probably the, one of the most important areas to get yourself access to, because this lets you upgrade your armor and your, and your shovel, which is very, very helpful for making the later stages a lot easier. Like, part of the reason why Plague Knight is so hard to go for first is because you don't have any of these upgrades, which makes your life a lot easier. Yes, I do indeed listen to all of Shovel Knight's jokes here.
Okay, here's the thing. I haven't fully done everything in this game, but is it possible to make Toter laugh?
No, it's not possible to make him
he's
laugh.
always good. Oh,
and you don't get you only get a achievement for hearing all of Croaker's puns. You don't get an achievement for hearing all of Shovel Knight's jokes, unfortunately.
2 eggs, hover easy. That wasn't funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the point.
Well, you would know, Lewis. Toter is your spirit animal. So.
What's actually really funny is if you play the game in butt mode, I noticed this particularly with Croaker. Some of his puns don't work anymore because he says the word butt instead of night. So it's just like he'll make a pun about a shovel and then it'll just say butt and you don't understand.
Well, it's indicative to the pun's quality.
Yeah. Also, you don't get a choice to not give him a joke because your options are and So I don't know if there's if I showed off all of the jokes. I went until I saw a duplicate. So there might be one or two that I haven't seen. I don't know how this game does it, or if it'll show you all of them and then start doing duplicates, or if it just picks one at random. But there's
no shortage of butts.
So it's ass 24/7.
Oh, looks like Toter's a boob guy. Then, yeah. So anyway, this is another one of the bonus bosses. This one's a little
Mr. Hat.
Mr. Hat. Actually,
How would you like to suck my dick, Mr. Hat?
That's one of the things about South Park that annoyed me is that they got rid of Mr. Hat, and Mr. Garrison was not nearly as funny once they got rid of him. So, yeah.
Wait, you didn't like Mr. Twig?
No, not really.
I didn't either.
Nobody liked Mr. Twig.
Yeah, and all the Mr. Slave stuff and all of that has not aged very well at all. Although you could just say that about 90% of South Park anyway, but...
This is a random fucking boss.
Yeah, he just really likes hats.
What the flying fuck just
Yep.
happened?
Yeah, he really likes hats, he wants your hat, and every time he switches hats, he gets different powers. So when he's wearing the beret, he throws teacups at you.
It's like the closest thing this game ever gets to a Mega Man boss.
Yeah, basically.
So
And,
you basically spent 3,000 or 4,000 gold to get 5,000.
yeah, pretty much. Right, well, off I go. Yeah, so it's pretty random. And what's great is you can see him standing up there. If you talk to him again and then one more time in a different part of the area, he keeps on giving you money because you won't leave him alone. Yeah, so
The armor.
So if you're playing the game for the first time, I actually recommend the red armor because that makes it so that you don't drop as much gold, which is pretty helpful in actually being able to afford all of the stuff. But in general, the best armor for me is the Dynamo Mail because if you shovel bounce on something twice, you will start glowing blue, and then the next normal melee attack you do will be a charge swing instantaneously without having to charge.
If you
it
buy this stuff, can you switch between it freely?
Yes, you can.
Well,
The armor, anyway.
The shovel upgrades are just kind of inherent, but if you buy an armor, you can switch to it and switch between them for no costs. But you do have to do it here.
You do have to do it here, yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't miss the jump. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Shit, oh fuck, I wish I could bother someone to give me $1,000.
And you get $1,000 again if you talk to him again up here, I believe. Is
that every time you leave, or...?
No, just for this first, just for this first time. I believe he will be back in the hat shop if you leave and re-enter the area, but I think you can only get a max of 2,000 bonus gold.
Okay.
That random cut was because I thought that there was an extra time, that you could talk to him there, but I was mistaken. So
Right.
you can only talk to him the 2 bonus times.
Another bonus boss?
Yeah, I
Yep.
believe this guy was actually was actually put in the game by 2 best friends. I believe they're a Let's Play group who I have not watched much of, but I hear they're funny, and they put him into the game.
Well, you know, a bit of a YouTube cult classic. You probably haven't heard of them, viewers.
Like, I don't know how popular they are. I just know that they exist. I do believe
Well-
this character is in the Dropkick game, though.
More popular than us.
Well, I assume
Well,
that.
come on, that's not very hard to do.
Yeah, I assume that
It says Johnny.
I assume that a candy bar on the street is more popular than us most of the time. So.
Well, probably.
Bonus points if it's 100 grams.
I love
a-
when I
you take a
accidentally
picture.
take a picture when I'm trying to press the select button. It's my favorite thing. Yeah, honestly, out of the 3 world map bosses, I think he's the hardest.
Really, I find him the easiest.
No, because you're gonna see it right here. I'm gonna die, and yeah, he's got a lot of invincibility frames, and I find his
Oh, you're 1 hit away too.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's...
he's got a lot of invincibility frames, and I find his movement very unpredictable. So I have a hard time with him occasionally. And by occasionally, I mean I died once off screen and cut that out because that would take too long. As you can tell by the
So are you gonna bounce on his head to get your money back?
yeah.
No, you can just jump. You can just jump them.
Yeah, you can just jump and reach it, but as you can see, the gem bags are in a different location, so that means that I died again off screen. So, yeah, but thankfully, if you die, you pick up all of your gold. You have all the gold that you used to have, and if you die again, you drop the same amount of gold, because that's how math works. So, you don't ever... If you die to a boss fight, you're really not in too much danger of losing your money. You just kind of have to win, because it's always really easy to pick your money back up in a boss room, because it's just one stage. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
But
that
yeah,
is-
it's just with the lightning bolts and the swinging and him blocking his head so well, I always have a lot of trouble trying to get a good clean run on this guy, unfortunately. He's also the funniest of all the characters.
Yeah, he becomes plays next assistant in his playthrough.
And if you shovel him a few times, he drops extra gold. So yeah, that's fun. But anyway, now we're going to what also is probably like up there with my favorite stages of the game, with Treasure Knight stage, and
I believe this is one of the tracks made by the Mega Man composer.
yeah, Manami Matsume.
Yeah, Manami Matsume.
This
It's-
and Plague Knight stage, but this
It's
song,
certainly-
I like, it's funny how, I know it's really weird, but I like how Manami Matsume is known as a Mega Man composer, even though she's only worked on the first game.
yeah, but it was
and-
the first game, so
Which,
Yeah, I know,
Which is also weird considering this sounds very similar to Bubble Man.
yeah, but this is
At least
my
in the
favorite.
intro part.
This is my favorite song in the game, bar none. I think it's phenomenal. It's like this is my favorite track in the game. Not to diss.
Plague Knight is my favorite.
Oh,
track in
well,
the game.
they're both, like, again, not to diss Jake Kaufman, because Jake Kaufman does phenomenal work, and the soundtrack is great overall. It's just, this track in particular, it's got the driving beat is so good, like the ba-da-ba-da-ba. I have this on my car playlist, and I do not have a lot of video game stuff on that playlist. It's mostly, like, rock music and things like that, so this is, I love this track. It's easily my favorite in the soundtrack.
Because you see, whenever I'm in a car that belongs to anyone in our internet friend circle thing, like all of their car music is video game remixes. All
Yeah,
of it.
I know. It's mostly just because...
I just like that even after so many years of doing this, you still regard us as internet friends. Thanks, Louis. Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's just
Well-
one of-
Not real friends.
yeah.
was referring to just about everyone that we know from conventions and stuff.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I have a very weird musical taste because whenever my dad was driving, he would either have Bon Jovi and other 80s hair metal like bands or Goo Goo Dolls train like 90s indie stuff. And my mom would listen to what's current on the pop charts and Billy Joel and Elton John and like
Oh,
shit
Billy
like
Joel
that.
and Owen John, you mean my parents.
Yeah, basically.
Oh,
also
so
Barry
like in
Manilow.
today's day and age, I guess in today's day and age, it wouldn't be Go-Go Girls, it would be like Google Girls, and would it be the internet equivalent of Bon Jovi?
Ninja Sex Party? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, they're more the internet version of Kiss, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, when you're thinking of music style. So, But yeah, basically, my music taste is all fucked up and all over the place, so I like a lot of different types of music, so I don't have a lot of video. It's weird when I'm listening to video game music. I'm doing it while I'm working, and I'm listening to like 30-minute extended versions. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't find it conducive to like driving in a car, for instance. The only soundtracks that I tend to do that
unless of course
like
I'm.
Sonic Adventure, I think, is like one of the only things that I will.
Well,
listen to
vocal
actually
tracks
drive
are good for keeping your brain engaged when you're doing something that otherwise would not require much thought on your part. Well, much active thought anyway.
I don't know. I like to drive around to Cruising USA soundtracks.
That
I was kind of hoping you collect the money on
that
the way
was
down, but-
that was an unfortunate death, Ted.
Yeah, because it was right next to a checkpoint that I had just
That
broken
you
into.
broken.
So the game was just kind of taunting me there a little bit. Yeah, so most of the deaths in this are going to be my fault, particularly. I think Shovel Knight is, in most cases, a pretty fair challenge. Because it's not
Yeah.
one of those kinds of games where it's just
definitely.
like 2 hits and you're dead. There aren't too many instant death traps, like you've got the Mega Man spikes and bottomless pits, but for the most
Yeah,
part,
yeah.
the game's pretty manageable because you've got a health bar, and it's pretty sizable.
That's another thing I like about it, though, because the gameplay design takes the same general approach that the graphic design does, in that it's not trying to be the same as a retro 8-bit game, because let's face facts, a lot of retro 8-bit games, including the classics we all love, were bullshit. And still are to this day bullshit.
Yeah.
But
But hey, they fixed Crash 1.
well, yeah, but Crash 1 wasn't an 8-bit game. It was kind of straddling that line between the two design philosophies, but we'll get to
Yeah,
that.
that era has its own. That era has its own issues that need some polishing.
Yeah,
up.
yeah. It's just like the idea of challenge changed over time, and I think like one of the earliest examples of a game that takes the Dark Souls approach to challenge was probably God Hand. But when
That game's also Suda 51, and he's already all over the place.
well, yeah, but
I
mean,
no, it's not. Was it Suda
wait,
51?
no, that was no, it was a
Yeah,
Capcom
no, it
thing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Was it
yeah,
Hideki
was.
Kamiya?
No,
I
no,
think
not
it was.
Kamiya. I don't think it was Kamiya. It was
Why do I think it
the
was?
We
makers
have
of
the
Okami.
internet, people. We can look it up.
The makers of Okami, whatever they were called, Clover Studios, I think.
Yeah, that is Hideki
Yeah.
Kamiya.
It was them. Yeah.
That is
so
Hideki
so yeah, okay. But the thing I was driving at, and this kind of gets into like I really hate it when people just thoughtlessly compare a game to Dark Souls just because it's hard. Because Dark Souls isn't Dark Souls because it's hard. Dark Souls is Dark Souls because it's a particular approach to challenge.
Yeah, because there's different ways to make it.
It's also called Dark Souls.
Yeah. I mean, because there are different ways to make a game challenging. Like, for example, you can have the Kirby mentality where it's an easy game to beat, but it's a tough game to 100%. That's a different approach to challenge where it's just like the game is. Where the Dark Souls approach is where the game is difficult to beat, but you can. It's not unforgiving. It can be unforgiving, but it depends on your skill.
In a Dark Souls type game, the challenge is pretty much entirely based on mastery of the mechanics. Whereas it's not like any particular situation, although there are a few fairly bullshit bosses in the series. It's not like the game is trying to sucker punch you into dying in order to lengthen itself. Even when you do die, and you probably will die a lot until you master those systems, the game is not designed in such a way that dying wastes your time. And I mentioned this in an earlier part, but it uses the same kind of system that this game does, where if you die and then reach the same place you died at and pick up your stuff again, you don't actually lose anything. So the game encourages you to correct your mistakes very quickly by rewarding you for not screwing up twice in a row.
You mean I shouldn't go to the game journalism correspondence course where dark equals hard, souls equals gay?
Yeah, it's, and like Dark Souls, I've never played it, so I'm not talking about the game in particular, but, it's one of those big buzzwordy type things where the game is it's kind of like the game that feels like it would be a cult classic kind of game, but it's a mainstream popular title, if that makes sense. So people treat it so the game is not exactly like its audience kind of acts like it is, if that makes any sense.
It's why I mentioned God Hand first, because God Hand is the cult classic that you would expect Dark Souls to be. And it's not the same kind of system.
That's 2 times 10.
It's not it's not the same kind of system, but it has the same general approach to difficulty.
Yeah.
Where it's mostly mastery of the gameplay systems.
But I like in like the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, what was the Dark Souls equivalent that journalists were most likely comparing it to?
Ghosts and
would you
Goblins.
say maybe Ghosts and Goblins or Castlevania.
There were games that were super duper hard, but they were like super duper hard and unfair hard.
Yeah.
Like
the
Ghosts
tough
and Goblins, yeah.
The tough but fair. I'm kind of having a hard time thinking of it a game like that because you've got one-off examples like Castlevania 4, for instance.
Maybe some of the X games.
But you can't say Castlevania in general is tough but fair because there are some things in Castlevania that aren't really very fair.
There weren't really.
No, I would say Castlevania 1.
It's like there wasn't really a direct equivalent because Dark Souls type challenge, God Hand type challenge, is a product of game design evolution as a whole. Like the way games are expected to challenge people and the way players interact with that challenge has changed over time very drastically.
Yeah, because we don't do lives anymore. We don't do limited. Well, some games do. Like, I'm so happy that Mario Odyssey is not doing lives. Like, thank Christ.
It's like you finally got with the times, Nintendo.
Yeah. Like, I think you lose, 10 coins, which...
I don't even think it's I don't even see that as a matter of them getting with the times. I just see them, finally giving up on trying to make us think that they can do lives well. Because they haven't done that in years.
Yeah.
But, lives are... I don't consider them inherently an outdated concept, but they fundamentally change the way that the player interacts with their own failure. Because when you have a limited number of tries, the challenge becomes you have to be able to do this within a certain number of attempts. So the first attempt isn't necessarily as important as not having to retry as many times as possible over the long term, whereas if you don't have lives, every individual challenge can be harder, and the overall game won't necessarily feel much harder in the long term.
But I think it held more water back in the days of arcade because it was not just a matter of not progressing in an arcade game, but that also meant if you don't do this in 3 lives, you got to pay more money to even try.
Yeah, but that also extended to cartridge-based games because they had to lengthen games then too. And lives were a key factor in doing that. But it's kind of like there are certain JRPGs, turn-based RPGs and whatnot, and this extends to certain Western RPGs as well, where if you get injured during a fight, you have to either heal yourself or survive with that injury. You don't get your health back. And that means every individual fight has to be kind of lackluster because the challenge is not beating any individual enemy. It's lasting over the long haul, not running out of resources.
That's why games like the original Dragon Quest, which is the first console RPG, actually had, for the time, a very forgiving death system where you kept all of your experience and items, but you lost half your gold. Whereas if you just die in Final Fantasy, you get sent back to the last save point. So if you die, it's much more... granted, you don't want to lose half your gold, but
it's like playing Pokemon. You black out, you get to try again, but you're penalized a bit.
Well, I don't know how much money you lose in Pokemon when you die.
Half. It's half. Half of whatever you got
in Gen 1. In Gen 1, it was half. I don't remember if it was Gen 2.
I don't know, because I haven't lost Pokemon Battle in the main story in God knows how long.
In Gen 2, I think it was still half, but you had that bank system, which was specifically designed to safeguard your money in case you lost.
Yeah.
No, so your mom can get you Snorlax dolls.
Yeah. Essentially.
They've made it They've made it more forgiving over time for Pokemon in particular.
Which is one of those weird things where I don't know what it is because I haven't lost a Pokemon Battle in God knows how many years.
Well, that's just because, starting with, Gen 5, it might have been Gen 4, I haven't played that in forever, but at least starting with Gen 5, you don't run into a trainer with, more than 3 Pokemon ever, even gyms. It's just oh, this gym leader's got 3 Pokemon, okay, that's gonna be so hard when I've got a team of 6 that are 5 levels above all of your teams.
But this tangent sort of spun out of control into about 6 different topics, but my starting point was just that Dark Souls is Dark Souls because it's Dark Souls, I guess.
Dark Souls is the Dark Souls of Dark Souls.
Yes, exactly.
The amulet wrought a terrible Dark Souls.